A few weeks back, I made a video talking about like my favorite Workhorse fairway driver ever, at least so far in my career. And that was the Crave. And there were a lot of comments on that video saying that, why didn't you check out the FD? It's just as good as the Crave, which that's fair enough. And since I have FDs, I thought, well, why don't I go out and take a look at them again, put them next to my Craves and see how they stack up. And I will agree that these definitely cover the same slot in the bag. But even though they do that, these are both very, very different discs. Let's talk about it. And don't worry, I did get a good amount of throws before it got this windy out. So I've got a decent look at what the flights and how they compare. But basically what I want to talk about in this video is what the differences are between these two, because they're both very similar, but they're very different. Two, I want to see how versatile the FD is. Because when I talked about the Crave, the thing I loved about it the most was how versatile of a disc it was. And then we're going to talk about just which I recommend for what kind of player, because I do think that these kind of fit to different styles of play or player. So the biggest difference between the FD and the Crave is going to be like the feel and the shape of them. Like the Crave, for example, whatever Crave you find, no matter what plastic it is, it's pretty much gonna be board flat. So there are some that have like a very slight dome, but even like the domiest of Craves, you would consider to be generally very flat. Then when you grab like an FD, for example, these are not gonna be flat. They're gonna be pretty domey, and they feel like generally like a normal, they feel like a normal disc in terms of like depth to it. The rim on the FD, I would say, might be a little bit thicker, but that also might be due to how shallow the rim is. It just feels like the rim is bigger in your hand, but also the diameter. The FD is a very wide disc for a fairway driver. A lot of companies do this. I don't necessarily know the like benefits and drawbacks of having a large diameter versus smaller diameter, but if you're a fan of having like a smaller diameter driver, the Crave might be more your style, when the FD has that wider diameter driver-ness to it. But also the inside of the rim, like the Crave, I think it has more of that like plus style rim, which means like the insides of the rim slant outwards a little bit. And some people absolutely hate that. So if you're one of those people, the Crave might not be for you. But the FD, I don't think the FD has a plus rim. I think the later ones, but made by Innova, did. But when they made their own production of these, I'm pretty sure it's a normal rim. It's not really a plus rim on there. But in terms of flight, they're all very close. I would say that the difference is that the FD here has just more glide because it has that dome and the wider diameter. So it goes a little bit farther than the Craves pretty consistently. But the stabilities of them were like very close, but that also like brings us into like the versatility of them. So in terms of versatility, it's very tough to say. On one hand, the C-line here, I think it's a little bit more stable than this Crave. It's very hard to tell just throwing them, but when I threw them into a wind, I think this Crave just turned more than the C-line FD did. Now I've heard that the cosmic neutrons of these are even more stable, so it might rival the FD in C-line plastic, but I don't know. But then the S-line FD, I've heard, is supposed to be pretty flippy, and others might be, but this one, it was definitely more understable than the C-line. But I would even say it's between these two Craves. Like it might be a little bit more understable than my Neutron Crave, but it's very close to, if not maybe a little more stable than this Fission Crave. And this isn't even my most flippy one. It was definitely more stable than this Fission Crave, which is out of the box has been very flippy for me, and I've absolutely loved it. Because of that, because of the cosmic neutron being able to be more overstable, and these Fission ones, the ones that are like a touch of dome, are pretty flippy. So I would give the nod to the Crave when it comes to just versatility to cover the most slots that you can, which is actually kind of funny because a lot of people tend to choose MVP/Axiom because they're the most consistent. But in this case, the one disc covers the most stabilities with the Crave, and I think it's a win. Some people might not, but what do I recommend? If you're a beginner watching this, then I really don't think you can go wrong with either the S-Line FD or getting a Fission Crave. Now, which one you go after, I think would be preference. So like if you're able to go into a store, feel them in your hand, whichever one feels better and gives you more confidence, then that one is the one I would recommend. I really don't think you can go wrong with either of these. Now, if you have smaller hands, you might like the Crave more. So if you're not able to go into a store or something like that, then go with the Crave. If you have smaller hands or bigger hands, then go with the FD. These aren't the only two options either. There's like the River, there's the Patriot, there's the Leopard 3. All of those would be great options for like your first fairway driver. But if you're more experienced, then again, I think it goes back to shallow versus deep, plus rim versus not, or smaller diameter versus bigger diameter. But if you're also looking for like more versatility in the discs, then like Discmania down the road might have more versatility with the FD. Like they're just now releasing the swirly FDs, and I just got some of those in the store if you want to check those out. I'll have a link in the description for both of these discs. They are both available at my store. But like a couple years from now, Discmania might have the versatility in the FD in terms of having it in so many different plastics and stabilities to cover more slots. But right now, the Crave just has so much versatility with all the different plastics that they have. So like the Fission, the Neutron, Cosmic Neutron, Proton, Plasma, Eclipse. They have so many good different plastics in it. You can cover so many different slots. So for someone who's like a mold minimalist like me, I think it's the Crave. Let me know in the comments what you have for this slot. I'm pretty sure people get really passionate about this slot in the bag. So many good options. I think mine's the Crave, even though it might not go as far as the FD. But thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.